So, as happens often, I write something in the newsletter at the beginning of the day, and then by the time I get here, different stuff has happened in between. So I'm going to try and stick with what I feel like wanted to be shared, even though I could veer off in a different direction, which has happened a lot lately. So in the newsletter and for our meditation, I think everyone was here for the meditation, one of the first questions I asked was, what are you tolerating? Now, I did ask something like this at the beginning of last month when I came back from Nashville, because when I came back from Nashville, it was so obvious to me what I was tolerating and how much of my life wasn't fitting when I got back from Nashville, because I felt so filled up. I felt so inspired and ignited and just vibing high, and then I came back and I'm like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. But still, even though I've made changes and I am aware and there are steps being taken, the question just keeps coming up for me. What are you tolerating? What have you been holding on to, putting up with, or making excuses for far too long? Well, here's the thing. I thought, okay, I'm asking this question with this word, and I thought, I'm just going to look up tolerate. I'm pretty sure I know what tolerate means, but I'm going to look it up in the dictionary. And I was actually surprised. Okay? So the one definition that jumped out at me says, allowing the existence, occurrence, or practice of something, in brackets, that one does not necessarily like or agree with, out of brackets, without interference. Okay? So when I read the whole thing, I'm like, yeah, I get that. But the fact that there were brackets there, I'm like, wait a minute. So if I take the brackets out, what it actually says is, allowing the existence, occurrence, or practice of something without interference. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you're putting up with, that you don't like, that isn't to your preference. It can just be something that you're like allowing to happen and you're not interfering with it, right? So this takes me to a practice or an assignment that Glenn and I had with this coach, and that was to get clear on our values. And so I had my work, he had his work, and then I said, and you know what? We should do it together as a couple, too. So I came down with my 5, he came up with his 5, and then we came up with our 5. They're all different. There's a little bit of overlap between Glenn's and mine, and there's a little bit of overlap between his and mine individually and ours together. But for the most part, they're very, very different. And I thought that was such a curious thing. And in this month of connection, in this month of nurturing relationships and curating experiences, I thought, well, isn't this telling of why I'm feeling so incredibly with so many aspects of my life as I'm nurturing relationships, as I'm curating experiences, but sometimes I'm not really feeling the wholeness, And so my 5 values are integrity, number 1 at the top, authenticity, connection, openness, and artistry. And I went back and forth with beauty and artistry because I'm like, I really appreciate beauty, but the thing I appreciate and value more is someone who has some kind of skill or inherent talent or knows how to do something that kind of creates something beautiful. Like that, the thing behind it, And again, we have the artist of all of these fabulous paintings in the house, Shannon, right there. And I just love these paintings. I love this particular art installation, especially at night, even though it pops during the day, because it's all nighttime. It's all starscapes. It's all of these incredible, amazing blues and purples, which is just exactly like part of Elevate, like blues and purples and nighttime, right? So anyway, but yeah, so artistry. But the one that really is probably like my foundational value is integrity. And what I realized, it just took this exercise to see it on paper. I'm like, well, if that doesn't tell me why I feel so dissatisfied and so unfulfilled and so discombobulated in so many aspects of my life, which is not to say I hate my life, it's just that I know it doesn't quite fit. I know it's not as aligned as it could be. I don't feel as aligned as it could be. Why? Because I'm out of integrity in almost every single aspect of my life. And part of that not being in integrity, which really means not being in wholeness, not being in completeness, not being in oneness, is because I'm not being as intentional as I could be. I'm not being as committed as I could be. Commitment is one of the ones that Glenn and I have together. And I'm not showing up as authentically as I possibly could. And so when I'm out of integrity, it's like all of the other ones are kind of like wonky, right? But as soon as I step into integrity, as soon as I am like aligned, then authenticity just happens. Then connection is just what, evolves, between people. Then openness is how I'm showing up, like just being really open and accepting to whatever it is that wants to happen and however it is that is mine to show up instead of trying to force something or chase something. And the artistry, the creativity, like specifically the artistic creativity that is alive in me, that is just so ready to be unleashed, just comes. And that happened just a few days before I went to Nashville. It was like my body and my psyche knew that I was leaving here and that I was going somewhere new and different that I'd never been to. I was about to experience something new and different that I'd never experienced before. And it was like everything just softened and relaxed. And all of a sudden, 2 brand new tunes came out. Just like full new songs that we ended up singing here last month. Because my body and my psyche knew that I was going to Nashville and just let go. And it was the coolest thing. And I'm like, wow, I would like to experience that kind of thing more often. And then when I came back here after Nashville, and it was just back to I don't want to say the same old grind. I did use the word gruel a couple of weeks ago, which I just thought it was such a funny word in the quote from Daniela. But it's just do, all of these things require my attention. And so since I've come back, I've gotten really, really sick. Just as I was getting better, I fell off this stage. I injured my foot and then this left side of the body. And then just as all of this is starting to get into, shape and everything, I spilled tea on my laptop on Saturday, rendering my machine useless and having to work on Glenn's laptop, which he doesn't need as often, thankfully. But still, everything is slowed down again, just as it was when I fell, just as it was when I got sick, just as it happened when I had the collision at the end of June last year. And so for me, the thing that I'm getting, and I'm aware, I get it, I hear, universe, I am listening, I am paying attention, I don't need any more big slaps upside the head, I'm aware. It's not so much about the slowing down, it's where am I out of integrity? Where am I not in alignment with my values? And as I look at my values and look at how they inform the values that Glenn and I came up with together for each other, it's well, man, if I'm not integrity in this, then the communication that I want to have happening here, that's not happening. Or because that's not happening, we're out of integrity, and that really bugs me, right? So doing this values exercise was so fantastic. I'm so grateful for that, and I'm so delighted that we actually did it together to see what our values as a couple who's been together over 30 years and, have probably had about 17 different marriages, within those 30 years because we're totally different people from moment to moment, never mind year to year, decade to decade. And so to see that this is a way that we can become more connected with each other, that this is a way that we can nurture our relationship as we evolve as a couple, decade after decade after decade. Super cool, super cool. Okay, so why do we tolerate? I asked this question a few weeks ago. Any answers, any guesses? Anyone want to shout anything out? Why do we put up with stuff? We're afraid we might offend somebody. Okay. Yeah. Oh, someone. Okay. All right. Okay. How about a little simpler, a little more basic? It's easy. It's easy because it's familiar. It's something that we've been doing for however long, and so it's easy. The hard thing to do, the challenging thing to do, would be to do something different. Would be to experience something different, would even to be nurtured differently, right? But here's the thing, going back to that definition where there's that little bit that's in the brackets, I started thinking, well, what is tolerating really? Are there different kinds of tolerating? And what aspect of our being is actually doing the tolerating? Like in spiritual and consciousness studies, at least the way that I came up, there was the absolute, there was the relative. There was above and there was below. There was God, spirit, love, allness, whatever you want to call it. And then there was the individual. So there's like the macro and the micro. And so for me, like I'm constantly like, capital R reality, small r reality, capital S self, small s self. Even though it's all one thing, these are different aspects of being, okay? There's like the whole thing. There's just the being part of it, which has no form. It just ising, right? And until it has something to unleash itself through, until it has something to fulfill itself through, it can't even experience itself. But the thing is that energy, that creativity, that source, that quantum field, whatever it is, it doesn't care, it doesn't judge, it doesn't discern, it just is. And so when there is a vessel or a container, hi there, I'm a container, Leslie's a container, our community's a container, when that energy has an opportunity to express itself or fulfill itself through the container, then all of the stories, all of the beliefs, all of the paradigms, the opinions, the expectations, all of the everything that make up part of who we are what that incredible, amazing energy has to filter through. And then based on that, we have our experience. So I'm wondering, are there two types of tolerating? Are there two levels that tolerating is happening on? Is there the human or conventional experience where allowing the existence, occurrence, or practice of something that we don't necessarily like or want or agree with without interference, is that us doing it like the human part of ourselves? And then there's, the other part, we're just source. Source is just doing its thing. It's just like electricity, right? Electricity just is until it finds a way to like show up, as a lamp, as a hairdryer, as a little candle or whatever, right? Like it's just there all the time, but it shows up differently according to some kind of vessel or container. So source, maybe it's just hanging out. Maybe it's just like super chill and available. It's not putting up with anything, but it's tolerating. It's just there, ready, not interfering with what we're interfering with. It's just ready to unleash itself no matter what. And so the biggest thing that we are tolerating, Glenn and I, as people, as humans at home, and we just made a big decision a couple of days ago, is to move. And that's because where we live, although we appreciate and value it so much, just hasn't worked for a couple of years now. It hasn't fit, it doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel like a place we want to come home to. And for me, Glenn too, but definitely for me, my home needs to be my sanctuary. Like no matter what is going on, I need to be able to just go there and feel completely relaxed, completely supported, know that I can just be myself. It doesn't matter, what is going on around me. My home is my sanctuary. And that just hasn't been the case. And so it just got to a point where it's like, that's it, time to move. And that sort of phrase, time to move, for me, to be in integrity, going back to my values, I got to move in every single aspect of my life. So right now, I'm looking at everything, and this is part of the reason we're working with this coach together as a couple, because I want to be in alignment. I want to feel authentically me. I want to be in integrity. I want to walk the talk as much as I possibly can. And I know that I have felt discombobulated and just sort of disconnected, for some time now. And so the title of my talk today is Tolerating, a Call to Rise. Was there anyone here a couple of weeks ago when I did the RISE protocol? John. Okay, only one person. Great. No, two. Bonnie. Okay. Maybe Denise. Come on. Sure, you're here every Wednesday. Okay, 3. But everybody else, this is new to you. Fantastic. Okay, so this is something that started coming up for me over the last few months as I kept going deeper and deeper into the nervous system regulation. And for those who haven't heard me talk about this before, this whole last year, and the reason that I ended up going to Nashville was because my husband Glenn and I were in a year-long program called Relaxed Money, which was about creating a more relaxed relationship, nurturing a more relaxed relationship with money to experience money more abundantly, more prosperously. And a big component of that program, which has been such an incredible gift to me and was a lifeline during my recovery after the collision, is the nervous system regulation techniques that we learned. And what hit me a few months ago was that because the reason that we do this is to signal safety to the body so that we can signal to our body and our nervous system that it's okay to try something different, to try something new, that it's not a threat, that this was like a missing component in affirmative prayer, in manifestation, in demonstration. And that this is something that was key for people who knew how to pray, who knew how to meditate, who knew how to manifest, who did all the steps, read all the books, took the courses and the seminars and that kind of thing, and even had some success, but not consistently or not for, let's say, bigger, more substantial things. And the thing that really got clear was that it's because when our nervous system thinks that something is a threat, then our body is going to shut down and go into protection mode. And so even if what we want to expand into is a greater version of ourselves, happier, more successful, more connected, more anchored, more of sharing our gifts, whatever they are, with the world, if our nervous system thinks that that's a threat because it's not used to that, if our psyche is going, wait a minute, that's not what you know because this is what you've experienced so far, so forget it, we're not going to support you in this expansion, starting to use the nervous system regulation techniques to regulate the nervous system, allow the body to soften, allow the body to realize that it's okay to expand into something different and new beyond our comfort zone, and then to just let go and allow whatever it is that is meant to happen. That's what this R.I.S.E protocol is all about. So the R in R.I.S.E is regulate. And this is about calming the nervous system, signaling safety to the body. This is just one technique, the butterfly hug. Tapping, it means that there are different things happening, one side of the brain to the other side of the brain. Whatever you're experiencing, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're going through, it's telling the body, it's okay to go through this. And as the body learns that it's okay, the body starts to relax, the nervous system starts to regulate, and then you become more open to what it is that you're trying to experience or want to experience. And then we move on to the I, integrate. So as you're signaling safety, you're also allowing the body to integrate this, to really settle into the interspaces of our beings, into the cells, into the molecules, into the atoms, that safety is okay, that we aren't going to die. That's the bottom line. Whatever is going on, whatever we're experiencing, we can just allow it. We're not going to die. And then the next thing is surrender. And then through the safety, as things are being integrated, you get to then open up. Open up and allow for a new experience, something that you've never had. So if it's, more money, if it's a different home, if it's a different job, it's a different kind of relationship, if it's letting go of something that is getting in the way of you expanding, this is when you open yourself up to just letting go and surrendering to what's possible, because your body is already like, okay, we can handle this. And then we come to the E, which is expand. And then you just open up to the infinite possibilities that are available for you to express more fully as the love you already are. And without that nervous system regulation, the expectation can be to go from where you are now straight to expansion. And for some people, that's just too big a leap. For me, it's been too big a leap. For me, it was too big a leap, especially when I was recovering from that collision. So, when we truly realize at the deepest level that we are spirit being, we begin to let go of perceived limitations of our humanness. And that means capacity, our perceived expiration date, right? Because our bodies will give out someday. And in each now moment can more automatically open up to the infinite possibilities of more wholly expressing as the pure, essential love we truly are. That's the ideal, right? However, In order to lean into that expansiveness, we must first tune into our humanity and rise. So in the end, my questions for you are, as you're opening up to this protocol, as you're considering what it is that you're tolerating, I'm going to ask you, is there somewhere in your life that you are out of integrity, that you are out of alignment? And if so, is it possible that that misalignment or that non-integrity is what's informing your experience of life right now? What you're tolerating is inviting you to rise so that you can more fully experience and express as the wholeness, the love you truly are. Thank you, and so it is.